Welcome to the Inspiration North podcast, inspiring stories from inspirational people and how they found their passion, their true north. I'm James Eves.
And I'm Michelle Minikin, and this is the Inspiration North podcast.
Today's episode, it's the journey, not the destination that matters, with Hülya Erdal. We talk about how Cypriot life revolves around food in the kitchen, unlearning our social conditioning, and listen to her pitch for an awesome new TV series.
Hülya is a chef, transformation coach, REBT practitioner, and mindfulness teacher. Using her unique blend of cooking and coaching style, she helps you challenge and crush old belief patterns, replacing them with a fresh, uplifting outlook on yourself and your life, empowering you to change the way you see who you are and what you are capable of becoming, changing your behaviours and thoughts so you live a more fulfilled, happy and successful life. She says the road to your dreams is in the journey to yourself.
So good morning to you then, Hülya. How are you today?
I'm very well, thank you. Thank you for having me on.
Excellent, yeah. No, thank you to Paula Gardner for the introduction, one of our previous guests.
I was going to test you there to find out if you remember which one it was, but...
What do you mean?
What number Paula was?
Oh, no idea. Sorry, Paula. Got to a number now, I can't remember. So if we start with the first question. So when you were little, did you know what you wanted to be when you grew up?
Oh, that's such a brilliant question. I love it. I actually ask my clients this question as well. I kind of like, more about sort of, when you were young, what did you want to be? Do you know what I mean? And I wanted to be a lot of things. I think that's the thing. I had all kinds of stuff going on in my head. I wanted to be a detective. I wanted to be an archaeologist. Mm-hmm. I wanted to be an actress. And and I wanted to be an adventurer. And I think, things like Indiana Jones, I love that. I love that. I mean, that came a little bit later on when I was sort of early teens, but I love that. I love Indiana Jones. I love swashbuckling. I love inventors. I love quirky people. And so when I was a kid, I did a lot of reading and I loved adventure. So I read a lot of stuff and I read a lot of like Enid Blyton, Famous Five. Do you know what I mean? Really? I love all that sort of stuff, right? And I read, I used to read Professor Brainstorm. Love Professor Brainstorm. One that not a lot of people actually heard of. I love Professor Brainstorm. Used to read that. So I was really fascinated, I think, by adventure and history and culture. And funnily enough, I think even though maybe I didn't go down any of those particular routes, I think actually the things that I do now probably are an amalgamation of all of that stuff. So do you know what I mean? So yeah, that was definitely like actress, adventurer, detective, archaeologist. Crazy stuff.
And where does food come in?
I know, it's mad, isn't it? It's like, well, see, the thing is, I did love the food. I loved the food. I loved seeing and watching my mum and my nan and my aunties all cook because, of course, I'm Cypriot and the culture I'm from, life revolves around the kitchen, right? It revolves around food. So like the men are out in the garden doing the barbecuing, the women are in the kitchen doing all the prep, everyone's mucking in, we're all getting the food ready. And literally everything you do happens around food. So births, deaths, marriages, arguments, tears, happiness, laughter. Do you know what I mean? It all happens around food, right? Family gatherings, festivals, all of that. And I love the food. I have to say, even when I was young, so even though I think maybe even when I was younger, I didn't necessarily think about being a chef, there was always food in my life. And I loved, and I think, again, it was the sense of adventure. Because I think that's what food does. Food creates a sense of adventure because it's about trying foods from all around the world, different cultures, different tastes, flavours, colours, different types of ingredient. And I think that is really where the food comes in, actually.
You're almost bringing in elements of, so you've got Indiana Jones travelling to different places to try things. the detective in you figuring out, what gives this that sweetness, or where does that sourness come from?
Yeah.
Picking up ingredients. And then the archaeology in food, I often think you've got like layers of flavour and textures. So you're like uncovering them to figure out. So all of those come together.
And then the performance.
And then the performance of like, ta-da, here's what I put on the plate.
Yeah, exactly. Do you know what? That is so true. James, you put it really beautifully well. Write that down quick. I need to make a note of that. I have to use that in my bio. No, it is so true. Do you know what I mean? It is so true because I think like wanting to be an actress, I really wanted to, I guess, again, be out there. And I'm not sure if I was so much bothered about being in the limelight as such, but more about just sort of putting on a performance. Yeah. And I teach. So I guess, and they always say, don't they, all failed actors teach. So I think that in some kind of way, because my parents frowned on stuff like that. See, so the thing is, I come from a culture, I come from an upbringing where obviously my mum and dad were immigrants. They came to the UK to forge a life in the 60s. They strived, they worked hard. They put their stuff together. They had a business, dry cleaning. My dad was in dry cleaning. My mum was a seamstress. They bought a house, first house in the sort of early 70s. And it was, it was a really profound experience for them. It was a revelation. They had, as they got married, they had me and my sisters. There's three of us, three girls. And I think it was just such a sort of, interesting time, like growing up in the 70s. Do you know what I mean? And so I guess for me, sort of seeing that and watching my mum and dad did give me that sense of, wanting to help people. But you see, the thing is also growing up, and because my mum and dad did come here and they worked so hard, I think there was real kind of attitude that, get an education, because they maybe necessarily didn't really get that opportunity. Get an education, be a doctor, be a lawyer, be a this, be a that. Do you know what I mean? Like go to university, do this, do that, da-da-da. And I think because there was that attitude, if you said things like, I'm going to be a chef, or, I want to be an actress, or I want to be this, they didn't have an understanding of that, because to them, if you wanted to pick that kind of career, that was never going to get you anywhere. It was never going to make you money. You were never going to get anywhere with it, and that, again, it's just simply because of lack of knowledge and understanding and belief in something like that, right? So it was like, even though I really wanted to do it, and I did study media actually at college, funnily enough, I guess I ended up in marketing and PR, which I suppose was like a kind of maybe a sort of compensation for it a little bit. Do you know what I mean? But it was just, it was like, all right, I can't be an actress. Going to have to move on from that. And actually I had thought about the chefing as well, but again, it was like, no, my mum and dad are not going to be very happy about that, so let me pick a career, a worthwhile career that they might get. Do you know what I mean? It's interesting.
So what were you like at school?
Oh gosh, I was the quiet one. It's hard to believe, isn't it? Like, what?
Nearly fell off my seat then.
You having a laugh? What? Yeah, I was the silent one. I was quiet, man. So when I was at school, up to the age of about 16, before I left school, I was a little bit of a wallflower, to be honest. I was quiet, I was shy, didn't really come out of myself. I always felt very self-conscious. Always felt very self-conscious, and just didn't feel like I could fully express myself. And again, it might just be upbringing, it might have just been that you just generally tend to stay kind of in the shadows, and I'd say I definitely lived in the shadows. I was probably quite a good student, although I probably hardly ever did homework. I'm not sure it was ever that, but I did my little things at school. I loved English. I was really good at English and writing and that sort of stuff. I loved that, all that sort of thing. And that was another thing I thought about, being a writer. That was another one to add to the collection of many careers that I thought about. But I think I wanted to be a journalist. I really, really loved that. And so, I was good at English and that sort of stuff. So, I suppose I paid attention. I was a good girl. But then when I got to college, don't worry, everything changed.
Bad girl at college?
No, do you know what? So I don't know about bad girl, but I will say this. I was, I was a bit louder, you know, I made friends. I was able to come out of myself. I felt like I could really express myself when I went to college, because I did drama. I did go to college and study media, film, TV, drama, all that sort of stuff. And I got to do things that I really wanted to do. You know, I picked these courses and I was able to come out of myself, and I got to have a little bit of adventure when I was there. And, you know, I made new friends who were all very different and, you know, quite loud. And so actually it was fun. It was fun time for me, college. I'll never forget those couple of years when I was there. They were great. And, you know, it did give me a chance to come out of myself a little bit. Yeah. Express myself.
Lovely. So what was next after college?
So I went to, funnily enough, so I went to college, and then the whole time though, my dad had a dry cleaning business. So I was helping my dad in the dry cleaning business, and I'd go there on a Saturday, you know, summer holidays. Do you know what I mean? Like having to get up at the crack of dawn, basically, to go over to Romford. His dry cleaning business was in Romford, in Essex. So I spent quite a few years in Romford. You know, literally like sort of coming from East London, Walthamstow, and then almost like practically growing up in Romford as well for like some of those sort of teenage years. So I used to help my dad in the shop. So after I finished college, I actually I was a bit of a loose end. I think I didn't really know what I wanted to do, where I wanted to go. Actually, sometimes you sort of, again, I think it was the fact that even though I wanted that adventure, wanted that life, I don't think I had enough courage to jump forward and do it, right? And so I think because of that, I worked with my dad for a little while in his shop, and then I went and obviously studied marketing and PR. So I went and did marketing and PR. So, you know, it's interesting because actually nowadays, you know, like online courses and alternative education and all of that is a big thing now, right? Well, I did it back then. Funnily enough, you know, back in the 80s, that's what I did. So like late 80s or 89, 1990, I studied marketing and PR, and I did it with this private college in Covent Garden. Obviously, you had to physically go there, and so I'd go there on a Saturday, and I'd do my courses, and then I went into marketing and PR. So like sort of early 20s, I had a stint in an art gallery. Yeah, I had a stint in an art gallery. That was fun. Worked in a concession in Selfridges. Enjoyed that. As you can see, there's a pattern here because it's like, I think the pattern I was forming was that I am a little bit... So I'd say that I'm courageous in the sense, even though maybe I wasn't courageous enough to say, right, I want to go and travel the world, because really that is really in the heart, deep heart of mine. That's really what I wanted to do. And I will still do that, you know, I will still do that. But I think I had the courage to experiment with careers. I had the courage. I was fearless enough to know that I could try this job out. And you know what? If it wasn't rocking my boat, if I didn't enjoy it, I would go to the next job. I would just, and thing is, back then, I guess you could do that. And, you know, I wonder, you know, I know things are a little bit different now, but I reckon you probably still could do that. You could still try different stuff. But, you know, so I went in the art gallery, then I left the art gallery, then I went into marketing and PR. So I worked for a sort of sales, like direct marketing company. So it's like they did marketing lists, basically mailing lists. They produced mailing lists and would sell them. Back in the day when you used to send it to the client on a floppy disk, and those are the days. And so you know, mailing lists, all of that. And then from there, I went into PR, publishing company. That was very interesting. So I worked for Richard Desmond. And so the owner of the Express former owner of Express newspapers, but he used to own OK Magazine and another one. There was a few magazines that he had, like women's magazines. And I was working on those. I like to just add that in there quickly. But he also was one of the kings of top shelf titles. So I did work for one of the porn kings of the UK. That was thank you. That was really interesting.
I can imagine.
Yeah, because back in those days, artwork was all done on big boards, like these big A1 boards. And you'd like you look at all the artwork through like these magnifying glasses. So you can imagine you'd be sitting in your office working on like the PR stuff for, say, OK magazine, or obviously I was working on the OK stuff, and then someone would walk by with this really big artboard for one of the top shelf titles. Mm-hmm. That was really interesting.
I'm just sitting and minding my own business, and there's getting affronted by boobs.
Honestly, it was an eye-opener. Let me tell you, it was an eye-opener. I was a bit like, okay then, let me just turn this way and just get on with my work. Just carry on. So that was interesting. And then from there on, I went into another sort of direct marketing company, which I stayed in quite a few years. I went with one, and then I went and joined another. And I was working on products targeting women and children. So I did a lot of like work, and that's really my whole where my food story begins, actually. So in my 20s, late 20s, early 30s, I worked for direct marketing companies, agency side, but all the clients were food clients. So I worked on people like Del Monte and Bon Grand Cheese and Hip Organic baby food. And that was amazing, because I think that really I found that so much fun. We used to, deal with artwork, photography, packaging, all that kind of stuff. And I was in Soho, man. Oh, those were the days. Oh, it makes my heart sing when I think about it. I was in Soho. We were going to all the restaurants, Quaglino's and Atlantic Bar and Zillies, and we were just eating at all these different places. And Fridays, it'd be like everyone would just break at lunchtime, and then that would be it. Friday afternoon was just like down the pub. I don't actually drink, I would say that, but like down the pub and all that. And in Soho, I was on Great Pulteney Street. I worked on Great Pulteney Street, and it was literally right near Wardour Street, Beak Street, all of those places, Lexington Street, Wagamama's had opened. That was quite, a revelation. It was amazing. I have to say, those days in Soho, those days just going to all those places to eat and everything, and the food companies, I think that's really where my really, really honest, food journey, my culinary journey began, actually. Yeah, it was amazing. And I used to do a lot of cooking. I grew up cooking. I've been cooking since I was a kid. I've grown up with food, grown up cooking. And so I learned all my sort of key skills. I'd still say now, even though I did a chef's course, even though I trained as a chef, and I trained based on the French kitchen, which is mostly what chefs do, tend to train on the French kitchen. It's a world-renowned kitchen. A lot of my real, heart food, the food that I really love and that I'm passionate about, was the food that I grew up with. It was the food that I learned to cook when I was a kid. And I'm eternally grateful to all of my aunties and my mum and my nan for teaching me all of that, because that was just amazing. Yeah. So that my journey is all kind of like crazy, man. It's all like hickledy-pickledy, like here, there, do you know what? Maybe I had that adventure. Maybe I was Indiana Jones in my career, going there and trying it all out, right?
But that's the key point, I think, with all the podcast guests we speak to. It's that you use the word courage to actually change, to say, well, I can try this. If it doesn't work out, it's not forever, and I'll do something else. Rather than, it's very easy to get stuck in a career, in a particular role, because that's what you're supposed to do. But actually, I think finding that the spark that says, this is it, and this is what I want to do next. But you've used all these great variety of experiences and experiencing the multiple cuisines that London has to offer. And then it all gets packaged up to sort of today, and it's like, yes, I can see where that all comes in now.
Yeah, totally. I think so because I do. You're absolutely right, James. I think when I look back and I think all the stuff that I've done, I think that has really definitely brought me to where I am today. And I'd say that most definitely, like, even though like I feel now like I've entered a new era of my life, you know, and I've just turned 50 as well, which is amazing. And I've entered a new era of my life and a new, and the next chapter. And I do honestly feel that this is like the best life. Do you know what I mean? And I'm sure back then I felt like there were times when I felt like this is the best life. But I honestly feel this is the best life because I'm taking all those experiences of what I did, where I was, you know, and kind of amalgamating them into this like beautiful little business that I've got now. Do you know what I mean? This synergy. Because, when I did make that, I sort of, once I'd done the marketing, and then I sort of met my first husband, actually, funnily enough, got married and had my boys very close together. And when I did that, that was when I went and trained as a chef. So I actually came to the chefing itself, like the sort of more kind of structured chefing, when I was about 31 and 31, 32. And I went and did chefing at a chef's school, and it was. Do you know what? It was funny because I actually went to the college. When I went to the college to do a course, I was going to train as an English teacher, and the reason for that was because I said to myself, you know what? You've always wanted to go around the world, and I'd sort of thoughts about possibly going back home to Cyprus for a bit and living. I thought, right, you need to make sure you've got a skill. You need to make sure you've got some transferable skill that you can use all around the world. And what was that? Well, one of those things is teaching English, right? Which a lot of people do, a lot of young students do, right? Graduates and stuff. So I thought, right, let me go and do the teaching English course, the CELTA course, the University of Cambridge course. And anyway, it was full up. And someone had said to me before, long time ago, oh, you should train as a chef. You should be a chef, you know. And it was there in the back of my mind. And anyway, I sort of turned. And when I turned, I saw my old lecturer, Roland, standing there. And forever indebted to him, really. And he was obviously, you know, had a stand there and he was waiting for people to come and, you know, to sign up for the course. So I thought, you know what, let me go and talk to him. And you know, let me just go and have a little chat with him. Do you know what I mean? Like, I just thought, you know, let's just do it, you know, do it. And my marriage was kind of on the rocks at that point, right? So this was the first marriage. It was kind of like falling apart. And I thought, you know, you've got to like literally just do something. And I think I didn't want to go back to the marketing and PR career, actually, in a way, because I didn't want to go back to an office job. So I went to see Roland and we got chatting. And I said to him, listen, you know, I can cook. Because the thing is, when you do a chef's course, and I've taught the chef's course, funnily enough. So when you do a chef's course, you do level 1, 2, 3, right? And generally that's the course you go. So you start the very basics, level 1, then you go into sort of intermediate, like level 2, and then the advanced, level 3. And I said to him, listen, let me just say something. I can cook. I said, I know how to cook. I've got the basics. Don't really need the intermediate. Just put me on the level 3. And he said to me, he laughed and he said, he says, do you know what? He says, I like you. He says, I'm going to take a chance on you. He says, go on then, like that. And do you know what? That was the most amazing thing. I'm forever indebted to him. And actually, me and Roland share exactly the same birthday. That was the funniest thing. So like, we were like both Aquarians, crazy Aquarians, adventurous, you see, free-spirited. So he said, yeah, go on then. So that's what I did. So literally, like, I started the chef's course. And of course that was it. That was it for me. Like, I started the chef's course and it was a revelation. It was just the most uplifting thing of my life, learning about the French kitchen, you know, all these little techniques that I acquired that I hadn't done before. So like deboning a whole chicken and filleting fish and all these sort of skills. So some of the stuff I was thinking, yeah, you know, no, I got that. I know how to do that. Make pastry, make cake. Do you know, not to be cocky, but you know, it was stuff that I'd already done before and I'd taken an interest in. And but then I got to learn some of this stuff and it was just like, oh yeah, hallelujah, this is amazing. I mean, I love this. This is like the best thing since sliced bread. So doing the chef's course. So basically through that chef's course, I then made a few, and this is, do you know what? This is a law of attraction, right? This is manifestation. Okay. So in its absolute like purest form, in my head, I was thinking, well, you always wanted to be a writer. And one thing I was really, really good at as well when I was doing the chef's course was because we had to do project work. And on the project work, you had to write about the food. So you had to do like a little sort of passage about the dish that you were going to cook, as well as doing like time plans and costings and all this sort of stuff, because they teach you that. You had to write about the description about the food. And so mine were always like, and the food is this, and it tastes this, and the texture, and the and the colour, and the blah, 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 and this, and this, and this. And, like writing it like a food critic. And Roland loved it. He was like, oh my God, your writing is like the best thing. And I just thought, this is amazing. I'd love to do this. I'd love to write recipes and this, that, and the other. Anyway, then I met a friend who was editor of a newspaper in London. It was a Cypriot newspaper, but an English language Cypriot newspaper in London. And actually, they spread it sort of nationwide. It was quite well known. And they said, oh, do you want a column in the paper? And I was like, all right then, why not? So basically halfway through the course, I ended up with this newspaper column. And then by the end of the course, I'd started a catering business because I thought, again, in for a penny, in for a pound. And started a catering business. And that was amazing. And I did that for a long old time, like the catering and then the writing of the newspaper. And then from there, that led to other things, other writing stuff. And then there was like TV programs that they were looking for people for TV programs. So I did a little bit of telly. I did stuff on BBC One, on Channel 4. I met people, and I made my contacts. And then, of course, social media happened. And that was like Twitter. Twitter was the way, man. It was like when you first sort of entered into that social media, it was like Twitter was the thing, wasn't it? So then I went into the whole Twitter thing, and I had a website, and it was amazing actually, because food was just it opened up. I mean, doing the chef's course, I think, opened the door to my life now, really, and where it is now. Food opened that door for me, and doing that course was just probably the most beneficial thing. And I still did do the English teacher's course actually after that. I did do it after I finished the chef's course. I went and did the English teacher because I thought, do a teacher's course as well, because you never know. Because again, so food is a language that we all speak, right? It doesn't matter who you are, what culture you're from, what race, whatever it is. Food is the thing that connects us all, okay? And food it has a language of its own. You don't even have to be able to speak to just appreciate and have the language of food, right? And the great thing about cooking and having a skill like that, and I always encourage anybody, get a life skill, have a life skill, whatever it is. That skill will take you anywhere. I could pick myself up now, lock, stock, go to another country and find work. That would not be a problem for me. Because of that skill. And so I did the English teacher's course as well, because I thought, what? I could, there's a little something here. So, I'm always sowing these seeds in my head, even though they might not happen right away there and then, and I can't quite think what I'm going to use it for. I sow the seed and I go and I get a skill. And that's the one thing I always say to people, don't hold yourself back. Don't be afraid. Even if you're thinking, no, I'd like to do that, but I'm not sure for what reason. Just do it. Do you know what I mean? Just do it, because you've got nothing to lose, and you'll find that at some point down the line, you'll be able to use it for something, and then you'll realise why you did it. So, for me, doing the teacher's course as well was amazing, because then obviously what happened is Roland rang me because we kept in touch, and a couple of years down the line, one of the lecturers was leaving from the college, and he asked me, do you want to come and do a bit of teaching? And I was like, 100, definitely, because I knew that I think catering is a hard job. It's a hard slog. And I had young kids, and it was a hard old slog. And then I was going through a divorce and all kinds of madness going on, and I just thought, what? Let me go and do the teaching. That would be wicked. That'd be a good experience. And so I did. And you know what? I've ever since then, sort of like my mid-30s, I've never looked back on that. That the teaching has always been there for me. I've always done it. I've been doing it for the last 15 years, and it is amazing. I love teaching, so I do it privately. I do it in a college setting. I teach young ones, adults. I've taught in a secondary school. I've taught little ones. It's great. I teach youth, 16 plus. It's amazing, because it's like being able to give them inspiration, isn't it? It's like mentoring. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's what I feel like. I feel like I'm mentoring them when I'm teaching them. And it's really inspirational because you see them change, don't you? You see that change. That's why I love transformation so much. That's why I think that's why I ended up with the transformation coaching as well, because you see them transform, you see them change, you see their confidence build up as they get better and better from the beginning stages where they start to where they end up. And I love watching that transformation because I know I did it myself. Do you know what I mean? I know I went through my own transformation, hence ending up in the coaching business as well now. And I think that it's so crucial for people to understand that journey that they've got to go on, the journey that you've got to experience, the different levels of that journey in order to get to where you need to be, or where you're going to be. And it's not really the destination, it's the journey that you make that really matters more than anything else, So oh my gosh, I've just making me talk about all this stuff. I'm thinking, God, wow, you really have packed in quite a bit.
So tell us about what your coaching practice is all about now.
Yeah, so kind of I said to you, I got married twice and divorced twice, and I have 3 children. And again, I'll tell anybody, never be afraid. Don't stay in a situation that isn't serving you. It's very hard sometimes to identify that, though, because it can be very easy to allow yourself to get manipulated and crushed down. My first marriage ended quite rapidly. Because it was apparent that it just wasn't going to work out, and he had sort of aggressive tendencies, shall we say. There was domestic abuse, and it wasn't good, and so I nipped that one in the bud quite quickly. Then I met my second husband, and I'm very grateful to him, very, very grateful to him. I have a beautiful daughter, and as I am with the first one, I have 2 beautiful sons. But it was obvious that the marriage wasn't sort of ideal, really. I think, I entered into the marriage, I think, because I was searching for something, and I was looking for stability. And obviously, having come out of the first marriage, that wasn't ideal. I think he appeared to offer me that stability, and we were able to achieve things. We bought our first house, and we and he was working, and I was able to work and part-time, and and then run my business and look after the kids, and so it was great. There was an element of flexibility there, but there was also a sense of controlling and manipulation. And I don't know if you know about coercive control and narcissism, and I found that very. It's interesting because when you look, and I've done a lot of studies around it now, and I've done a lot of reading on it as well, because I want to be able to help other women who have this experience. Is that you become confused, and you live your life in a bit of a cloud and a fog, and you're sure that there is something isn't right, but you're not really sure how wrong or right you are. And so you second guess yourself a lot of the time. So I kind of went from this person that would make decisions and be able to just nip things in the bud and move on and jump and this, that and the other, to a person who just felt debilitated some of the time. So I to the outside world, I was always a smiler. People call me Smiler. I was always smiling and happy and jolly and jovial, and try to make sure that I was always upbeat. But in private, I think I was confused, and I could never really push myself forward. I always felt like I was being held back. I felt like there was something sitting on my shoulders, and I wasn't sure what it was. And so I'd say that. Over the marriage lasted maybe about 10 years or so, and it was obviously apparent then. I think the things that really created the change were that he wasn't getting on well with my sons, and I'd already made it very clear that from the beginning, I've got 2 boys, and their father wasn't really around so much. So I said, they would be looking to you as a father figure, and that's what I'll be expecting in this relationship. If you take me, and the children all together. We're a package, and it was and he had sort of been very sort of sure that, yes, that's absolutely what I'm going to do. And then it just, I think things just broke down as time wore on. Obviously, there's two sides to every story, as they say. But, I will say this to you that, yeah, there is two sides to every story. But when there's narcissism and coercive control concerned, that's one side of the story isn't really the side that you'd probably want to be hearing. It's never going to be that accurate, because that person's only ever going to come from a place of their own, whatever works for them. Yeah. And that's really what happened. And so I'd say that was probably the biggest, that's why I'm very grateful to him, actually. He done me a big favor. And so all the time up to that point, I'd sort of done my little things. I'm doing this business, that, and, doing my stuff. And then obviously I had this profound experience, this, quite sad experience. It just switched my whole brain. It's where I entered the hero's journey, as they will call it, as our coaches will call, or psychotherapists will call. Is where I entered that hero's journey, where something happens in your life that finally, it's like the straw that broke the camel's back, isn't it? It's the thing that just goes, you know what? You need to make some changes. Something needs to change now. And it started me on a journey. So probably the last 5 years, I went on this journey of discovery, self-discovery, self-worth, self-value. And these are all the things that I focus on when I'm coaching. So my coaching is transformation coaching. I recently qualified as an REBT practitioner as well, so rational emotional behavioural therapy. And for me, and I combine that with the food, because I always found the food was my salvation. So I know it's quite unique, it's quite unusual, but I do feel that people respond to that. It's like going to the hairdressers, and you're sitting at the hairdresser and she's doing your hair, and then you're telling her your whole soul, or him, or your whole life story, or you're having this like big profound chat, right? Well, the food and cooking is a bit like that. So the food and cooking is very much like, when people come to cook, it's almost, it's a relaxing task, isn't it? It's a very mindful task. It's a wonderful experience, because you're making beautiful food, colourful food, amazing stuff. And, you've got these wonderful skills that you're embarking on and learning. But within that, it's a really great way to talk as well. It's a great, so my coaching style is probably very conversational, but it helps because a lot of times when people start to have conversations with you, that's when you can really dig deep and really get to the crux of what really is the problem. And so when I went on, so really all the stuff that I do with other people is stuff that I did to myself. That's what I always say to people. It's nothing I would tell you that I haven't done for myself. And I went on this journey of transformation, and I read books, man. I read books like there was nobody's business. I'm always reading books, and there were particular authors that obviously really touched my heart. So like Wayne Dyer, listening to Abraham Hicks, Marianne Williamson. These are all great authors. Catherine Woodward Thomas. I mean, these are amazing people, amazing speakers. I did the Tony Robbins, and I listened to the Brendan Burchards, and and I've listened to so many different people, and the Deepak Chopra meditations, and oh boy, I mean, I've meditated, yogaed myself to the the max, man. I literally like. I'm telling you, there was no stone left unturned as in this transformational journey. And I transformed myself. I realized, see, when you asked me that question as well, when I saw your question, what did you want to be when you were young? I just said to myself, do you know what? That's the question. You see, that is the ultimate question you ask anybody. And that's the first question I ask anyone. Is what did you want to be when you were young? When you were little, what was it you thought about? And I can tell you, when I was little, I can remember one specific memory. I was 7 years old, and I was standing in the playground, and I was looking around at all these crazy kids. They're all running around like lunatics, and because as you do, it's what you do when you're in the playground. And all I kept thinking was, there's got to be more to life than this. There's got to be more than this. And that was at 7 years old. And I just said to myself, there must be that there's got to be something else, and I'm not sure I want to be here. I want to be somewhere else. And see, because I read a lot, I wanted a life of adventure. Yeah. And I just said to myself, so I had to talk to myself a lot over the last few years and say, right, what is it? What is the life you want? And so I'm now creating my business around the lifestyle I want to lead, rather than doing the work to get a certain lifestyle or whatever it is. I want to lead this life. I'm leading a lifestyle, and the work I'm doing has to fit around this lifestyle that I choose to live. And I've done it that way. You know, for me, I see like absolute happiness. You know, we're all happy. Look, we're all happy. Happiness that lies within us. Okay. It's always within us. You know, you don't have to go looking for it. You don't have to acquire something to be happy. But people have to learn to understand that, and learn to understand their deep embedded feelings and what's going on inside, what's going on in their heart, what's going on in their head. So my journey was of that discovery, was that self-worth, self-value. See, the problem is when you find yourself in situations, you have to take responsibility. So even though, all right, it's not my fault the way someone treated me, it's not your fault someone screams and shouts at you in the street, but what you can do is how you manage your reaction, your response to that, how you manage, how you handle that. And do you just take it on and go, oh God, the world hates me? Or do you know what I mean? Or do you take it on and go, do you know what? Oh, well, c'est la vie. That's his problem. That's something she is going through. I'll send them a prayer. I'll send them love. Let me just go about my business. And, you know, it's understanding that and being able to see that, yes, even though you might have ended up in a particular situation, the responsibility you take is, why did I attract that? Why did I attract that into my life? What thoughts were in my head at that time? What feelings was I having in order to actually attract that thing to me? And what I realized for me was, where's your self-value? Where's your self-worth? You've been hiding. And I think even though I was, you know, known as an extrovert, even though I was always like trying to be the life and soul at the party, I would hide myself as well. I had a little sense of like not being so visible. And I had to trace that back. I had to trace that right back into my childhood as to why was that? And obviously it was always because your parents say, you know, don't speak up, don't speak, don't say that, don't do this, don't do that, you know, be quiet, be a good girl, be a good boy, blah, blah, blah. You should do this, you should do that, you should, you must, you're this, you're that, you know, and the minute you're told all of that, you're conditioned to be a certain way. And so, you know, I had to learn all that and unlearn all of that social conditioning. And so now that's what I do. So the coaching for me, because I did it to myself and because I've done all these courses and I've done all this learning, I've done transformational coaching course, I've done the REBT practitioner course, mindfulness teacher course. I take all that, and because everyone's going to respond to different things, aren't they? And I take all that and I amalgamate it all, and I do it in around the, you know, cooking. And, you know, we do coaching, we do cooking. So it's like you do this like nice little sort of activity. So the cooking is a bit like sort of doing like a team building activity. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? It's like getting to know, exercise, and tell me about yourself and what's going, you know, we have a nice little chat and a talk. And it's really wonderful. And then obviously we do some, you know, one-to-one, face-to-face coaching, or, you know, Zoom-to-Zoom coaching. Yeah. And all through that, I help people to change the way they see themselves and change the way they look at the outside world. And that's the most, because honestly, if you don't do that, no matter how much career and work and whatever else it is you want, and the love of your life and the marriage and the this and the that and the blah, 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 no matter how much of that you want, or you might even get it, you may never be fully satisfied or happy, or you'll always feel that there's something missing. Yeah. So I think everything always starts back with self. And if you get yourself right, like you can value yourself, and we're all a work in progress, so nobody's perfect, then everything else will always, you know, come to you and will be amazing.
That sounds wonderful. Sounds like a really good TV show as well.
Yeah. Do you know what? That is really good. Do you know that?
Get in touch with Channel 4, quick.
I know, innit? Netflix. Do you know what I mean? Like, well, you know that Queer Eye show?
Yeah, I love it. It's my favourite. It makes me cry most of the time, though. Absolutely love it.
It does. But you know, that's a little similar, isn't it? Because I watched it the other day and thought, oh yeah, and there's like 5 of them, isn't there? So one does like food, one does the way he dresses or she dresses, the other one does the house, the interiors, one deals with the emotional aspects of their life, do you know what I mean? And then I don't know, the other one does whatever I don't remember how many of them are, 4 or 5 of them. But it's exactly that, right? So yeah, so you know, I think definitely, I think a TV show is a good one actually.
Yeah,
definitely.
I'd watch it.
Pitch it. Yeah.
Oh, well, thank you ever so much for sharing your fabulous journey. We could talk to you for like days, but
Thank you, Michelle. That's very kind.
we can't,
bless
sadly.
you.
So, can we move on to our quick fire questions?
Yeah.
Take it away, James Eves.
So question 1. Who would be your favourite dinner party guest?
Oh, Stevie Wonder, without a doubt. Absolutely love him. Adore him, adore him, adore him. Love, love, love. Yep.
Awesome. So, question number 2. You are chosen for the first human mission to Mars. Which one ingredient could you not be without?
Oh my God. Oh Lord. I'm not even sure. Maybe some seasoning, probably salt and pepper, because everything tastes good when you add a bit of seasoning. I'm sure later on I'm going to think, oh, olive oil. There you go, olive oil. Yeah, I'm going to say that, olive oil.
Oh yeah, James is a big fan of his salt and pepper.
Yeah.
Definitely. And then question 3, what would your perfect morning be like?
Oh, you know what? Waking up in the Provence or in Sicily, like just opening up the shutters from your chateau and looking out to the sea and vineyards and orchards. Opening up, like being in the Mediterranean, opening up the shutters in my chateau and just looking out at this most beautiful sunshine. That would be my most perfect morning.
Oh.
That's on the intro trailer to the Netflix TV series.
Yeah. You do this all in the Mediterranean, in the south. Yeah. Cool. I can't wait for this to come out.
Then we get like a nice big vineyard making chateau.
Oh yeah. Have you seen that? My favourite film is called A Good Year with Russell Crowe and Marianne Cotillard. I love that film. I watch that regular. I probably watch it weekly, right? Because I love the way it uplifts my spirit, right? So it's all part of my envisioning, and that's that house. It's actually called La Conorgue. It's in the Luberon, and oh my God, people go there actually to visit the house. So that's on my list. I'm going to go and do that. But yeah, so as soon as we're out of this madness that we're in, but I would like to go there. But I have to say, that is my absolute a chateau like that there, somewhere like that. Oh,
it's awesome.
Definitely.
Okay, so if we could pop you in the time machine, take you back to your 18-year-old self, and you could have a cuppa with her or create some beautiful food, what advice would you give?
I'd say live your life. I'd say don't listen to anyone else. Don't do what anyone else tells you. Don't worry about what people are going to think of you. Just go and have that adventure that you always wanted to have. Just do it. Don't worry about the consequences of what you think might happen, or don't worry about, the future. Just live in the now and do it. Just do it. Don't worry about anything. That's what I tell her.
Oh, I've gotten all goose pimples about that. That's brilliant advice. Could you go back to my 18-year-old self and tell her the same, please?
In it.
I'm probably James, actually. It's like
#
life advice for everybody.
Yeah.
Cool.
So for our listeners, if you would like to get in touch with Hülya or just look at more about what she's doing, go to the website therecipeforlife.com, and other social media links are in the show notes. Well, it's been a real pleasure chatting with you today, Hülya.
Yeah, I feel quite sad that it's over.
I know, me too. Got to change forever. It's so good. I love it. I love it. Oh my God. Thank you so much for having me. I am eternally grateful. It's very kind.
Thanks everyone for listening. Check out all the show notes at inspirationnorth.com. Join us again for the next episode when we'll be chatting to another inspirational person. If you like this, subscribe and tell your friends. If you didn't like this, subscribe anyway and tell everybody.